You say that new technology won't interfere with radio business. Name the 3 possibilities radio has in the future through digitalization.
Well, radio is already becoming a very much more multi-platform experience. So gone are the days when we could just broadcast on FM and hope that everybody would listen. We are now broadcasting through mobile phones, of course, and through tablets and through smart speakers and everything else. So really what radio needs to focus on is making sure that it's relevant to its audiences in terms of the platforms it broadcasts on. And that's a very important part of where radio needs to be going.
As a radio-futurologist, how do you think Austrian radio will look in 15 years from now?
I think Austrian radio is interesting. It's a very, it's a small country, it's a very proud country, and I think therefore it's not been too affected by some of the things which are going on elsewhere, both in Europe and in the US and other places. And I'm sure that that is going to change a little bit as we keep on moving. What Austrian music has done what Austrian radio has done very cleverly is using things like Radio Player Austria to make sure that it has a good, solid standing for the future in terms of apps, in terms of getting into cars, in terms of getting onto smartphones and all that kind of thing. So I think that was a very clever move from the Austrians, and I'm sure that Austrian radio will be very, very strong.
People working in media say soon there won't be differences between news for different media channels. There only will be news which will be broadcasted through every channel equally. How do you stand on that?
Oh, I wouldn't agree with that. I think that news has to be relevant to audiences, and the news that a 15-year-old girl is going to be interested in is very different to the news that a 55-year-old man is going to be interested in. So I think, certainly we'll need to bear that bit in mind. But I think personalisation, I think relevance, making sure that you are broadcasting something which is relevant to them, is going to be more and more important in the future. And I think that people will be less interested in hearing stuff which is irrelevant to them, which they have no interest in. I think that personalisation is a really important part of where radio and the media as a whole is going.
What is your favourite media type, beside radio of course, and why would you say that?
My favourite media type? Well, I hardly watch any television. I find it quite dull and boring. That's partially because I now live in Australia, and being a British person living in Australia, I still have much to learn about how the Australians work. I'm finding myself, though, discovering more and more magazines. Glossy, well-produced magazines which have some real in-depth reporting in them. And I think maybe the in-depth part of reporting has been something that we've missed over the last 10, 15 years, and maybe we're actually going back to a time where we can actually really focus on a story and learn more about it.
Thank you so much, James.